All right. Hello, everybody. My name is James Gaskin, and welcome to the Hustle Harder Show. Today, we're really excited to have our guest here today, Jeff Nydegger. Jeff is a real estate investor and co-founder of Kendall Partners, based out of Chicago, Illinois. I'll let Jeff kind of tell his story and tell us a little bit about his business here. But really excited to have Jeff on this show. He really embodies the real estate entrepreneur that this show is made for. So we're excited to hear his story. And without further ado, we'll kick it over to Jeff.
Cool. Hey, James, thank you very much for having me on here. And it's great getting to know you over the last, what's been maybe a year and a half or so, probably?
Yeah, right about a year and a half.
Yeah, it's been, they used to think I was tall, and then I got standing next to you and they were like, who's the little guy, Jeff, over here? And so
Story of my life.
Isn't as tall anymore when I'm standing next to you. What are you, 6'7"?
6'7", that's right.
Yeah. Look like a little kid. So, no, thank you for having me on here. It's been great to get to know you and the folks at Renovo. And that partnership's been awesome. So, yeah, I'm Jeff Nydegger. I'm the owner, the co-founder, CEO, visionary, innovator, all those things for a company called Kendall Partners. And we also own jeffbuysyourhouse.com, which is our TV and radio brand. So that's where if you were a home seller looking to sell your house in Chicagoland for the speed and convenience and sell as is, you would see Jeff Buys Your House on TV and radio, hopefully, and that's where you'd see us first. So, yeah, a little bit about us. I mean, we started in 2007. I've got a business partner, Kevin Hanson. We've been together since 2007, and we office together. So it's not like he's a money guy and I'm a deal guy. We've always done it together and figured it out together. We sign all of our loan documents together and office together. We've got a pocket door in between our office. He's over here. So we've got that. We've got a team here in the Chicagoland suburbs, which is where we've operated since we started. So we're a direct to seller house buyer that operates all over Chicagoland, some in the city, but mostly in the suburbs is our focus. TV, radio. I would say we're really good at the lead generation aspect of things. Family-owned business. We got a lot of camouflage. I'm a veteran, so a lot of flags around the office. We've got a good time. We've been doing this a long time, but like I tell everyone, we're still just figuring it out along the way. So a lot of work to be done, but we're having a good time doing it, and got some great folks on our team, which makes it a joy to come in every day and get after it.
Well, thank you for that background. I'm there. You said a lot of things in there that I'm excited to dig in on. The team and your partnership with Kevin, I think are really cool. You guys have really, you've been doing this a long time, right? How many years in the real estate business together?
We started in 2007. I mean, Kevin was working with his brother, and I had just got out of the military at the time in 2006 and took a job. Again, we're family. So my wife and Kevin are first cousins. So, and they were always pretty close. So, they kind of brought me in after Sarah and I got married in 2002. And just an awesome experience with them and just real close bond with cousins. And I went to work for his brother, and Kevin and I were always talking about real estate and what it would look like. And I wasn't a very good employee. I'm kind of unemployable from a W-2 standpoint. And so I was always kind of conspiring on what I could do to figure out the real estate world. So I left a really good paying W-2 job with benefits and all that good stuff. And then I had to prove it to Kevin that it would work. He wanted me to go first, which has always been my role, right? He's not that he wouldn't take a chance, but he'd like me to try first. And then he came along with me in that. So we started in 2007 with really no money and no experience, and just a lot of passion for wanting to build a business together. And I think that right there was the probably the biggest turning point for us as to how we've made things work through lots of different iterations of our business. Just doing it together. Wouldn't matter if we were buying and selling cars or cups or pens or houses. We like to do business together. And we're kind of that yin and yang. As romantic as that might sound, it's always worked pretty well for us. We haven't really left the office with many disagreements. We've kind of figured out and know that you saw my presentation at Collective Genius, just playing the long game. We really do try and embody that we're here for each other and to work with each other, and we know we're better together, and it's been great.
That's awesome. That's so special, because I think that that's probably not the most common story, right? I think a
No.
lot of people do go through, a few iterations before they kind of find the person that really perfectly complements them, and that they want to go to battle with for a long period of time. And so the fact that you kind of found that almost out of the gate is really, really cool. And I want to dig in on that a little bit more. But before we do that, I'd love to just kind of take it back to the beginning. I'm always really interested in how people get into this, right? Like, the life of a real estate entrepreneur. I mean, you probably didn't know any better back then, maybe, but it can be a grind. And the real estate business is an up and down cyclical business. And it's hard, and it's very hard to do it successfully over a long period of time. You've been able to do that, but what was it that first caught your attention, about real estate and made you want to explore that as a career after the military?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I guess we'll back it up maybe a few years prior to 2007. I was in the mountains of Afghanistan in 2005. And that's back when Amazon, a small business you might have heard of, was starting to really take off. And honestly, they were able to ship some books that I was interested. And as I was thinking about that, I know a lot of folks go through this. It's like specifically in the military, when you're interested in transitioning and you're asking yourself what's next. Typically, you start doing some investigation, or at least I did, and start doing some research. I wasn't really willing to just say, well, let's just see where I go. I've always kind of wanted to be the captain of my own ship. And so I ordered a few books, and the reason I chose these two real estate books is because I'm a pretty simple guy. I'm from Iowa. The reason my office is full of whiteboards is because I need to draw things out to see them. I'm just that type of learner. So anyway, I bought two very simple books, one being Real Estate for Dummies, and the other one was a book on fix and flip and flipping, houses. I ordered those books, very simple reads. I was able to go through those, and it was really interesting to me. I just thought, well, I like construction and I like renovation. And I figured if I can be the guy that can do that and then not just pay myself a fee, I could actually buy and sell and hopefully make the big money that I thought you could do, that I would go that route. So that was kind of the start for me. My dad had a couple of rental properties, one specifically that he had for a long time. So I kind of grew up watching that, and he wasn't a great landlord, but he was a good example for me in terms of how he treated the folks. And I learned that we would go and collect the check, and I thought, wow, these guys are paying for this. And I didn't really love that type of real estate, and I don't have a ton of rental experience. We've owned some multifamily, but I liked the idea of buying and selling and doing it with houses. So I just took that information and kind of tucked that away and told my wife, hey, I'd love to do this one day. Anyway, I took the job here in Chicago, which got us back to the Midwest. And all along, I was trying to figure out what would be the next step. And so there's all these things that you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So I wasn't thinking about private money and hard money and financing terms and where I was going to source these properties. And I just thought it was as simple as, I'm good at renovating. I've got a pretty good eye for a detail and how things should look. Let's find a house, we'll renovate it and do the things that they do on TV. Right? Everybody loves to fix and flip. Everybody loves that transition and that kind of journey that you take a house through. And so that's really what we started. We just started like most people, buying a house that needed a lot of work. And then, it was like a $40,000 house. And that's basically all Kevin and I could afford. He had a line of credit. I had a few bucks, and we actually had the seller finance the rest. And then interestingly enough, I did all the work on the house. Kevin helped a little bit on the weekends. And we actually sold it back to the guy that bought it, that sold it to us originally. He wanted to keep it as a rental. He thought, "Oh, this looks great. I'm just going to keep this in my portfolio." So that's really how we got going, and it's just been a journey since. We didn't, I didn't have any business background. Kevin went to school for business, but we really didn't have any entrepreneurs in our family. All of our parents were W-2 type people, and so I never really saw that besides that one rental house. But and that was probably a good thing, because we've just learned along the way and continue to try and be humble learners. I think leaders are learners. I think investors for sure need to be learners. And if you don't, well, the market will teach you pretty quick. Most people just kind of go away. So in 2007, if you didn't know, was an interesting time to get in, because in 2008 and 2009, it was one of the more challenging well, economic times, but certainly in the real estate world was in Illinois was one of the toughest, hardest hit places in the country. So it also provided a great opportunity for us. So that's we're always looking for that next thing when the chips are down, and we figured this is a good time to jump in. And it's hasn't all been rainbows and cupcakes, but it's been we've been very fortunate to be where we're at today.
That's awesome. And I love that part of the story because the concept of something that seems really bad in the moment really was an opportunity. It was a catalyst for your business, it sounds
Sure
like
was.
in some ways, which I think is a really great lesson. There's a lot of people out there who, want to be where you're at, and, they're going through all kinds of things, but, there's opportunity at every corner. I think you just have to be willing to see it and go and work for it. One thing I did want to ask you, because you mentioned Collective Genius earlier. So for those who don't know what that is, it's a real estate. I guess a mastermind would be the best way to describe it. I think it's a little more than that, but it's a group of real estate investors, very very highly successful investors that get together and try to help each other get better in business and in life, which is a fantastic group. That's how you and I have gotten to know each other.
Yeah.
But I had the privilege of hearing you present your story, to the select group at Collective Genius, which is, kind of the middle group. You've graduated to, the premier level, which is the kind of highest caliber operators in the country, really. But I heard you tell this story, and one thing that you said that I thought was really cool was talking about kind of the why, and you touched on it a little bit, but financial freedom, the ability to control your own destiny. I mean, talk to us a little bit about that. I think that's a really cool concept because it underpins, I feel like, everything that you've done since then and the way you've built your business.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And yes, the Collective Genius, I would consider that, it's like the CEO's board of directors, right? So it's, not just for CEOs, of course, but it's an awesome community. Like you said, I think the way I would describe it is more of a community of investors. And I like it because it tends to, I don't know if it's 50-50 between what you do in business and what you do personal, but I think that they've made it very important that made it a thing where they believe that you've got to be your best. You've got to be sharp, both personally and professionally. And that really aligns with Kevin and I, because I'd rather get to that. James, the first time you and I talked, it wasn't, if you remember, I wasn't really asking you a ton of questions about business. I really wanted to know you more as a man, just because I feel like if we can get those things kind of established and figure out where we are and what kind of challenges there are in life, then I feel like we can have more personal conversations, and as opposed to some guys, typically men, they want to size each other up a little bit, where I'm like, you put your pants on just like me, so we're all just trying to figure it out, right? Let's just be real. But yeah, the Collective Genius has been great. We kind of made our journey, as you said, from when they started with a smaller group up into the premier level, which is the top. But yeah, I think going back to your question, and going back to the why, the purpose for at least for me, and I think for Kevin as well, we both wanted, I don't want to use the word control, but at the end of the day, we wanted the freedom. I think that's the better word to use, the freedom of, I think there's three things. And I don't know if I read this somewhere years ago or if I just over time have developed it, but the freedom of of relationship. I wanted relationship freedom, money freedom, time freedom. And I think those are kind of the levers that you're always trying to pull on. It's like, you don't have time, you don't have money, you don't have the relationships you have. And so personally, I want the relationships. And so in order to have, in regards to my kids and my wife, I've got 4 kids, to go where I want with who I want, and be able to have the money to support that. I felt like I needed to be an entrepreneur. And I think real estate was something that was just very attractive to both Kevin and I. Building something together was awesome. And so it hasn't always been that way, but where we had all this freedom of relationship and money flowing and a ton of time, and we grinded it out for years. So now we're at a little different spot because we've just figured out that It's not all about how much time we spend. It's more about it's who, not how, right? It's finding great folks that want to do business with you. And then they're the team members, right? And they're kind of running the show, so to speak. And so we've been very fortunate to have a great team, but that really is the why. And I really wanted that freedom. I didn't want someone else. I came out of the military where they say left, right, left, and I did pretty well as a military man. And I liked falling into a system, but then after I was done, I thought I want to captain my own ship, like I said. So again, real estate happened to be that thing. It's provided an amazing opportunity. Again, it hasn't always been easy. I would say there's days where it's really tough. But yeah, I really wanted the freedom. I really like to do things like travel with my family, and in order for me to take off, what is going to sound crazy to many, take off a month or two, not consistently, but over the year, it'd be hard to do that for most employees to do that. I figured, well, let me do my own thing, so I have the opportunity to figure out when I want. So that's my thing there with that.
I love that. I mean, it's, designing your life and your business around what's really important to you, I think when people try to do things, when it doesn't come from that real true inner kind of, this is what I, as a human being, feel like I need, I think
Right.
that you find struggle, but when that lines up and when you can create that, alignment or congruency, like I think that's just so important to finding success over the long haul, right? Now you touched on the team, and we're going to come back to that because I'm myself and Renovo as a business, we are super passionate about teams and people. Oh, look at that! That's amazing. Appreciate that. Didn't ask you to do that.
No, you didn't. You didn't. But I happened to have it. I thought, well, I'm drinking out of a Renovo cup, Yeti cup, so I got to show that to the people. So anyway,
that's awesome.
Makes the
I
coffee taste
appreciate
better.
that. Yeah, no, I love it. No, but just to go back, you just mentioned we'll come back to the team thing because I do want to touch more on that. But you talked about the struggle. I want to dig into that a little bit because I feel like that's we live in a world where everybody sees everyone else's highlight reel on social media.
Yeah.
Like and I think for you and I think we're a similar age. We didn't grow up with that, but it's been in our lives for a pretty significant period of time. And if you spend any time on social media, whether you're aware of it or not, you get sucked into that a little bit. And so I know there's a lot of people out there that, again, they want to be where you're at, and they look around and go, man, what am I doing wrong? Everybody else is killing it. But that's not reality. And I love to just dig in. You said earlier, you guys started with this one house, $40,000. You had to basically pull everything together that you owned to buy it. You did the work yourself. And I know from the story you told to the Collective Genius Group, you slept on an air mattress that kept getting punctured by the nails coming through the floorboards and stuff like that. Great.
True story.
It's a fantastic story. Where did you go from there? How did your business evolve over the next few years? And, at the end of that, I'd love to touch on, where your business is today. Did you make any shifts, any pivots in the business? And that's kind of the angle I'd love to explore a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think that's important, especially for the folks that are going to listen or are interested in kind of that journey. I guess going back to what you mentioned first, James, is I would hope that I come across or that we come across or that I represent our company in a way of humility and vulnerability, just because I feel like I want to be someone that I guess my heart is that, I would be those things so that people can relate, because of what you just said about the social media side of things. And that, I'm actually not on any of that stuff. My team puts all that stuff on there, but I actually don't have Facebook right now. I actually got logged out about 6 months ago. So it's kind of been awesome, honestly. But I know exactly what you mean. And I want people to know me as a man, and that there's lots of good things and some bad things, and, not bad things, but just, it's real life stuff. So, that journey going back to that house with the arrow bed that I ended up waking up every morning at 5 a.m. on the floor. It was interesting. I knew back then, even during that first house at 20, maybe 24 years old, I knew that there had to be a better way. Now, I didn't have a plan for that, but I just thought to myself, okay, I'm staying 50 miles or 50 minutes away from my house, and my wife's not here, and I want to get this going. And I am one of those guys that all you have to say is it's really going to be hard. It's probably impossible, and I'm in. So I have this no quit mentality, and I'm not sure if it's just stubbornness or what, but it's proved successful for me personally. But I thought, well, I'm going to rehab this house, and I'm going to do it quicker than we thought. I'm going to do it under budget, all these things. I wanted to prove it and I wanted to prove it to Kevin too, because like I said, he kind of needed that certainty, and that's been good because I'm a little more of a risk taker, a lot more gas than Kevin is, and that's a great balance for both of us. But um, we did that and made a few bucks on that house. I think we made about $10,000. And again, that we're Kevin and I are 50-50 partners. So you'd think that, I get five, Kevin gets five. I think I gave Kevin a little bit more money because I really wanted to show him and his wife, and they just had a baby, here's a little more, like, what's it going to take to get you to leave? Because I thought, man, how do we do two houses instead of one, right? Everybody wants to, how do you multiply this thing? So we did that. We bought another house, and this was in 2008. Long story short, I rehabbed most of the house by myself, with a little bit of help and a little bit of contractors. Basement flooded after we finished it. Interest rates, weren't that big of a concern back then, but the market, it was like catching a falling knife in pricing. We just couldn't figure it out. We ended up losing about $55,000 on that house. Now Kevin went to college. I did not. I spent my time in the military out of high school. So Kevin basically was like, this isn't going to work. We can't figure this out. And we borrowed money from family. And he did, obviously we're obligated to pay that back. And I think Kevin was like, I'm going back to work. I'm not going to do this. This is not something, we're not going to be successful, with that type of loss. And, our private money lender at the time, a family member, had said, I trust you guys. You just pay them back when you can. And I think that moment was one of those times where it's like, wow, I know you trust us. Kevin and I would spend anyone else's money like we'd spend our own. We're pretty conservative guys. We count the cost of what it's going to take. And I think that was one of those helping hands along the way. A lot of grace there of saying, I know you'll get it back. You'll figure it out. And had they not been like that, and had they been more of a, I don't know, a hard money type, and saying it's 2008, give him my money here now, things might have changed. But Kevin did end up quitting. We ended up doing this full time. Along the way, paid some money back, paid for some real estate education along the way back in 2008, and then jumped into short sales. That's, in our area, no one knew what that was. And so we were kind of on the cutting edge of figuring out how to negotiate debt and work with all the loss mitigation departments back in 2008, 2009. We did that for about 2 years, and that was kind of a no money strategy for us because we were to negotiate debt with folks that were basically going to lose their house. And then kind of played matchmaker with being the negotiator and then finding a buyer. And then basically we set up double close along the way. And that was the catalyst for us. We were able to make some money, start paying ourselves, prove to our wives that we were real estate entrepreneurs and going to be successful. And we did that. And then until 2010, then we started rehabbing again, and eventually built a team, hired an employee, and then hired another, and then had a team. And from there, it just kind of took off. And I think we were probably renovating and flipping about 40 to 50 houses a year. So it was a pretty big operation, pretty big rehabs, learned a lot. And I think that's where a lot of people start. They're remodeling one and then two, and then you have four going, and then it's like, whoa, this is a lot. So, those are all kind of small numbers now today, but now we've got a big team, and with that comes a lot of overhead and a lot of, it's just a different business now. But so we just stuck with it. We didn't really chase anything. We're pretty patient, Kevin and I. Again, playing the long game. You remember that theme during the CG meeting? We really do have that philosophy of like, how can we make it work for a long time, not just for today and tomorrow and this week. So we're not really quick to act, and sometimes that doesn't seem smart, but it's because we're trying to be very methodical about how we can make things work. Just because we want some stability, and obviously, Kevin's got 4 kids, I've got 4 kids, and our wives both have stayed at home and kind of managed our lives and the kids' lives and make this whole thing work for us. So we've got that weight on our shoulders, and so we take it serious. And when you have a team now, of 20, 25 people, we also take that serious because they're in the same place. They want a good place to work, and they want a leader with a plan and a vision for the future. And we're trying to provide that. I think we do a pretty good job.
I would say so at this point. But what's great is about that part of your story is you took the hand that you were dealt, right? The cards that you were dealt 2008, 2007, 2009, very difficult times in the real estate business. You took that hand and you made a winner out of it, right? Figuring out short sales. Like that's finding an opportunity. But you said something in there that I really I love. You talked about the long game, right? I think a lot of people feel like they've got to scale really fast to take advantage of an opportunity, right? To take advantage of a moment in time, especially in real estate, right? Because it is cyclical. It's like, oh man, iron's hot, got to strike. And I think sometimes that can get you in a lot of trouble. And you guys have really taken a different approach. It sounds like, and don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you guys have really taken a long-term vision approach. Talk to me about that. How did that? Is that just your nature, and how has that worked out for you over the years in building your business?
It was kind of organic. Again, this isn't all about me. I'm going to keep mentioning Kevin's name because we do it together, but we never really talked. There was never a conversation about, hey, do you want to play the long game? No, do you want to play the long game? It was just a natural thing that we both were always in alignment with. And so even when times weren't good and we were losing money and we had to let some of our team go and a few people left and it seemed really bleak. This is probably 5, 7, 8 years ago. We kind of had to have some, we always had heart to heart moments, but I mean, some hard conversations about how we're going to make this work. But we've never had a conversation about how we weren't going to make our relationship work. It's like, we know that we have a good thing together. We do like, again, playing that long game. We do like strategic relationships, and we don't usually come in and out of relationships, meaning like even with third parties and vendors and partners, we do our homework and investigation up front. We really try and set things up for success so that we can maintain. I'd love to, have relationships with, folks like you guys on the lending side and, contractors as long as we can. If we can do things for 5, 8, 10, 20 years, I'd much rather maintain that as opposed to being in and out of things. So I think to answer your question, we've just always had that mentality of like, we've also had the mentality of like, if things aren't working, then let's not keep doing the thing that's not working. And I would say to the listeners that, I would say to encourage those that are out there trying to figure it out and getting things going. It wasn't until about 5 or 6 years ago, honestly, where I still had in my mind that if things didn't go well for some reason and there was a light month or we had to make things through, I mean, Kevin and I have had months and months and months where we haven't taken a paycheck from the company. And I mean, like no money from the company. I up until that time frame, maybe 5, 8 years ago, something like that, I was thinking in the back of my mind that I would go work nights at Home Depot just to make things work. And people can't believe that when I say that now, but I'm like, that's the truth. We just, in our mind, we said part of playing the long game is having the grit and the discipline to stay the course. And I don't mean stay the course of like keep doing that same thing if it's not working. I mean like, we're just going to figure it out. So we don't have a lot of conversation about like, we're just going to quit and hang it up and try something else. It's like, we know we can make this work all along the way. And so we're both realistic, but I'm very optimistic typically. And so we do our research, we figure out what we need. We're both men of faith. And so we'll pray about it and figure it out from there. But it's been a lot of grit and a lot of tenacity. And I think, if I can, that's the one encouragement I'd give to others is like, find a good plan and stick with it. Like if you think it's a viable thing and there's nothing new under the sun. There's different ways to do things. And I wouldn't call us trailblazers by any means. I would say we figured out a course of action that we thought would be something we could do for a long time, buying and selling houses. But we've changed along the way. We've changed our thought process. People that know me really well said, you guys have just pivoted and reiterated all the time as things, and I wouldn't say we're experts at it, but I would say my job as the visionary to the company is to be way ahead of that, is to see those things coming down the pipe and say, we're going to have to change. We're going to have to make things better. So it's a constant improvement of ourselves, of our leadership, of our, just relationships, making sure we're in alignment. Good part about having a great business partner is that we get to look each other in the eyes and say, is this really what we want to do? Is this really the right decision? I bring things to Kevin. He brings things to me. We don't operate independently. We trust each other implicitly. So there's never been that issue. And I think I talked about that at the Collective Genius, is like, if you can find someone that you can do business with and you can trust them, it just makes life a lot more enjoyable. In my opinion, it's like a spouse. We joke that, it's like, Kevin's my business wife. I'm like, well, I spend more waking time with him than, I have with my own family pretty much. So I can't say enough about finding someone to do business with, whether they're a business partner or not, but someone very closely held that you can do these things together. Gosh, it makes things a lot more enjoyable. Yes, you have to split the expenses down the middle. Yes, you have to split the profit down the middle, but two cords together make a really strong rope. So I would say we just kind of keep plugging away and figuring out how we got to change to make things work. You said it, like, real estate's cyclical. Things are changed the moment you think you've figured it out, the market hands you something different, or the government does, or both. And then now what? And just look at like COVID and all these things that no one would have predicted happening. And so unfortunately, a lot of folks aren't in business anymore. It took them down because they weren't prepared. And so we're trying to be very cautious while continuing to grow. And I know we'll get into it, but I've got some pretty big growth plans for our company as well, and we're not going away anytime soon. Or at least I'm hoping not to.
I love it, and that's fantastic. I think that dedication to what you guys were building together. But it sounds to me like, the relationship that you have with Kevin, the trust, but also the accountability has been foundational to what you built. Because I think in order to go, you use the word grit and I think determination, and those are words that I think you will hear often when you read and research about successful entrepreneurs, right? That there is a dedication, but you've got to really feel that in your bones to keep going when all the feedback you're getting is not good, right? And I think that is really special. You talk about, when we're thinking about the long-term kind of nature of the way you guys have built your business, it sounds to me like, it's been a lot of putting, the first 10, 12 years maybe were a lot of putting in the foundation. You mentioned not always taking a paycheck and things like that, I think, but also remaining resilient and flexible enough to make pivots where that's necessary. And I think that's a really tough thing to judge for a lot of people. When, I'm not giving up on my overall goal, but in how we're getting there, I might need to be a little bit flexible. I think that's really, really important. Like knowing where you want to get to, but being open to getting there from different paths, because things are going to change. We're not playing on a set chessboard, right? The board moves, things move around on you. And I think having that partner to really lean on in those moments, I think that it sounds like that's been, really, really important for your success.
Yeah, it has. And I would say the one thing I wanted to mention as well is that, this wasn't all read out of a book. We've had a lot of help along the way. So the Collective Genius being a major component to that, but that's only been the last 3 to 4 years for us. I probably wouldn't have been able to handle the information in the, let's say 6 or 8 years ago. I mean, it's all, timing is everything. So it's like a certain book doesn't mean something to you now after you've read it and you're like, oh, that's okay. But then 3 years from now, like, this is the best book ever. How is that possible? It's the same book. It's because you're at a different place in life. And whether that's a personal development book or a business book or, a marriage book or whatever it is. But so we've had a lot of help, a lot of coaching along the way. And I can't say enough about finding the right coach that you're in alignment with. It's got very similar core values and obviously has your best interest in mind. And so my one piece of advice, I guess, would be, learn from my example of finding a coach sooner rather than later. And if you think you can't afford a coach, I would say, can you afford not to? It's like hiring, the wrong person. It's going to cost you a lot along the way. So we've had a coach for years, and then that changed, and we had a different coach because our business had changed. And so we've had coaching along the way, and I'm talking about business partner coaching, real estate coaching. It wasn't really important to have someone coaching us in real estate. It was more someone that could have our best interest in mind and help us out and help us understand business, quite honestly, and the cycles and how to work together and how to build a team and expectations and business process and documentation and just the way we communicate to people. Again, being a military guy, there's not a lot. I've had to learn a lot of tact because I tend to say it how it is, and that doesn't always come across well when you've got. It's just people interpret that differently. Ask my wife, right? So just people have helped us along the way, and I think that's spoken to some of our success with people. I know you wanted to get to that about the people stuff, but we've had folks on our team for 11, 12, 13 years, several that have been around with us through many iterations of our business and could tell this story probably better than I could from their perspective. And it's all valid, right? They see it differently because they're not me. They're not Kevin. They're doing a different facet of the business. But they stuck around for the good times, the bad times. And again, going back to that is what we want. When you find great people, it's like, man, how do we do business with these folks for a long time? How do we grow older with them? How do we, watch their kids, kind of grow up and be a part of their ups and downs? And how do we do life together? And that's important to Kevin and I more than anything, more than the newest, latest and greatest salesperson. That's so and so is available, and I'm like, well, it may not work for us. They're just not if they're not our core values, they're not a core fit. We don't really chase people, but we've been very fortunate to find great folks through referral. Almost everyone here, out of the 20 some people that we've got, are all because someone knew somebody that they'd say this would be a great fit for our team. And so I can't say enough about that. When you've got good people on your team that want to bring other people on your, I think that's the greatest compliment you can have, honestly.
I love that. And that's a perfect segue to the people side of the conversation. And one thing I think about, because I'm heavily involved in bringing in the right talent, especially on our sales team. And so something I think about a lot, but, people in the end, I think it's all about people. At least that's the way I think about it, the way we think about it. And none of this is nearly as much fun if you don't enjoy what coming to work and doing it every day and the people that you do it with. And there's no better way to ruin a great organization than put a few bad apples in there, because it spreads quickly. So I'd love to hear how you think about talent. And I know on a role by role basis, this is going to change, right? But like, how do you think about who's a good fit for Kendall Partners? Are there any things that you look for across the board that tells you, hey, this person might be a good fit for our culture?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. The interesting part now is I'm a lot less involved in the hiring process. So I've got Glenn, my general manager, who does a fantastic job. He's got a very similar profile as mine, more on the Maverick side of the PI, if you're familiar with predictive index. But he's very non-threatening. He's not an owner, but he takes ownership. And so he's been awesome to have on the team. And again, going back to, if you hire people that come from the outside, and I'm saying the outside, that you may not know, and there are good folks out there that you don't know, of course. But that journey right there is in my experience and opinion, is much different than hiring someone that's been with you 10 years knows and speaks very highly of. It's almost like you can get to work much quicker with them because even though you may not personally have that trust bill with them, you trust the person that brought them in. So if you're a trusting person and people have been with you that long, it's just made it a lot easier. And so the conversations go quicker. And I think that, in my opinion of team building, the foundation is always trust. So I think Patrick Lencioni talks about it a lot. It's the bottom of his pyramid. So if you can, I've actually got it sitting right here. But the absence of trust, it makes things really difficult. But when you have trust, you can get some work done real quick. If people trust you and you trust them. So we've built it off of that. But to answer your question, it's a core values thing. So I've got our core values sitting up here, but integrity, humility, commitment, and growth. And so that's what we look for when we talk about who we want on the team, regardless of position. Doesn't matter where you are on the team. And I don't just assess that. It could be other members on our team, whether it be department heads or my business partner. But you get a pretty good idea because the ones that have made the cut and are on the team are already core values. They'll sniff it out pretty quick, and I don't think he's core values. I question what she said there or whatever. And so we don't just take the first person to walk in the door to fill a spot. We've actually hired quite a few folks in the last 30 days. We just hired 2 yesterday, as a matter of fact. So, but they make the core values test. And so we run them through several interviews in person and over the phone or a meeting like a Zoom meeting. And you can get a pretty good idea. But again, if you're hiring them and they come via referral, nobody was going to make a recommendation to someone that they think is not core values because they don't want them on the team. They don't want them to reflect poorly on themselves, but they already know what's going to work well for us. So that's how we've done it. That's how we continue to do it. And if they're not core values, if they are core values and for some reason they change, then we hire and fire based on core values. And it really makes it very easy. We don't try and change the game. We do make it we have like an anti-micromanagement philosophy. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. Like we want to make it a winnable game for everybody on the team. And then I want to get out of your way and make it, so you don't feel like you're being watched all the time. But setting people up for success. No one loves to be micromanaged. Everyone wants to know what a victory is and how the scorecard looks. And at the end of the day, what did I do well? Did I not do well? And then we just lead with grace, try and lead by example, and pay people fairly. I think not everybody is working here because because we're the best paying company around. But you will get treated fairly. You will get treated well. We do care about you. We're flexible, and people are coming here for the paycheck, but for the emotional paycheck, and they want to be part of a winning team. And we want winners. We want people that want to win. Everyone here is pretty competitive. They get frustrated when things don't go well, and so they own it. And but when we win, we celebrate. We have fun. So yeah, that's what we've done, and that's what we continue to do. And it's really worked well for us. But I can't say enough about the referrals. If you've built something and you just throw it out there, we go to our network first before it ever hits online or social media. Typically, we'll get plenty of referrals prior to ever having to go to the open market. We might grow slower because of it, because we don't have people that come from this industry into our organization. And so your training goes a little bit longer. But in the end, and I mean like 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, 12, 15 years down the road, you still have people that are around and have grown up in the company and they know the whole thing. And they don't need me to be in the meetings directing them. They'll own it and they do a great job.
I love that. You said something earlier in this part of the conversation that I want to come back to. You talked about the referrals and just in general with hiring that, your existing team will tell you if they're the right fit or not. And I think it's become very buzzwordy lately, but culture, right? That's what that is. You've built something that is now everyone takes ownership of, and it is bigger than everyone, or bigger than any one person, I guess. And when you have people that really believe in that and buy into that, in many cases, they feel bought in because they know that they're a part of it, right? Because they contributed to that. That ownership is incredibly important. And I wonder, like, where do you think your business would be? Would you still be in the same place if you didn't have that culture? How integral has that been to your success?
Yeah, no, we would not be in the same place. No way. And that has nothing to do with where the real estate market is. Culture is kind of the buzzword, but I think it always comes down to that. As you're building a team, or you can call them a staff or employees, we tend to call them a team. We're all rowing in the right direction, in the same direction, but we're not all 41 with 4 kids and married. Like, we've got people on the team that are much younger, people on the team that are much older, kids, no kids, all different walks of life. But yes, it does come down to our core values and our culture. And, they've got to buy in to all of that. But I'm just telling you that when they come via referral from someone that typically from someone that is already employed here, it makes it a heck of a lot easier just having these conversations. And it's proven to work out for us. But yeah, the culture is huge, and it's just enjoyable. And so we kind of filter it through like, is this somebody you want to work with? So as Kevin and I have over the last couple of years kind of stepped out of a lot of that, some of the day-to-day tasks. I have a different perspective now because we get to see who the team thinks they want to work with. But it is culture, and even the newest hires that came in, they just were talking yesterday about how they've kind of watched the company, and we're very visible online and run a lot of TV, and but they have a sense of pride already coming in. I want to be part of this, and that kind of warms your heart too, because they're like, no, this is special. And I'm not talking about how we even talked about the money, about what there's some idea of what the salary could be, but they just want to be part of a winning team that's going to treat them fair, and that's maybe sustainable or stable. I think most people are looking for stability, and I don't. The folks that work here aren't really. They don't have the mindset typically that they're looking to be in and out of something in a year or 18 months. And that's hard. That's hard on your family. It's hard to transition, and we don't take that lightly. So, yes, it does come down to a very, very strong culture, and something that I've got to lead us through and be a part of. And again, our leadership team has done an excellent job of owning that, and we're very open about. We do our town hall meetings on the first Tuesday of every month, where we all get together in the same room for 90 minutes and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and kind of where we're going. And people get pretty fired up, and we're not your typical sales and marketing organization, but they get fired up. They're excited about the growth, and we've got, like I said, big plans of what we're doing, and they're excited. It's fun to see how everyone gets excited about things and their own role, because they're all in different spots in the company. But yeah, very strong culture. Can't say enough about it. Determining your core values and sticking to them. But then again, you've got to lead by example and make sure that you are the things that you're saying that are important to you.
Yeah, you got to live it. I think that's great for anybody who's listening who's earlier in their journey, right? I think that's a great takeaway is really focusing on building a culture that people will want to be a part of and that people will want to protect. And it takes a lot, right? You have to, and you lead with a lot of vulnerability, which I think is amazing. That's one of the characteristics that I think it helps people really buy in when you're willing to be vulnerable and put yourself behind those that you're leading. I mean, talking about not taking a paycheck and just making sure that you're taking care of your team before you take care of yourself. These are all very fundamental things about being a human being, a good human being, but they translate to a lot of success in business. I know we're kind of getting to the end of an hour here, and I want to be respectful of your time, but I know you mentioned some things about where you're going. I want to touch on that. Where is Kendall Partners going, and what do you see as the next big challenges that you guys will have to overcome to get there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Also, so currently we're in the direct to seller home buying business. So that has not always been the case. So I've got to back up for just a second and say that for 6 or 8 years, our business really was a company that was purchasing houses on the MLS, at a discount, and then looking for those projects we can remodel and add a lot of value to, and then come back in and sell at the top of the market. Whether that's a $200,000 house or a $700,000 house, it didn't matter. But that's what we did, and that was our process. We were just scouring the deals that anyone could find on the open market, and that's how we did things. In 2019, when we sold some apartment buildings and kind of got out of some stuff we needed to get out of, we really had we were at a place in time, end of 2018, where we weren't spending much in advertising and marketing. I'm not a marketing guru. I feel like I'm good at it now. I actually feel like I'm really good at it now, but it hasn't been for 20 years of doing that. So, we were spending, $4,000 and $5,000 total per year in what I would call advertising and marketing, and that was more just, making sure we all had a T-shirt and kept the website running. Now we spend, a couple $100,000 a month. So and that's happened all in a pretty quick time, less than 5 years, where we're spending, even $250,000 a month in direct seller marketing. So that gets the phone ringing. And then we get to talk with sellers in all walks of life and different situations. And so we can ultimately purchase their house and provide them with typically the speed and the convenience that they're looking for and the certainty of a buyer, because we do close on every house that we contract. So we are the number two house buyer in the Chicagoland MSA by volume. To be number one, we've got to do some pretty significant growth. We're buying 20 to 25 houses a month. We really need to be in that 30 to 35 houses a month. And I would say we're on track for that. Everyone's really excited about that. We've done a good job of putting ourselves in the right marketing channels and becoming that authority. And then, our tagline being sell your house to the trusted source. So going back to, and how I tie in the people to that is, and the reason this is important is because one other encouragement I would give to the listeners is, don't underestimate the power of a strong brand. One thing that I think we've done well, and you can kind of, I'll lead by example here by saying, if you go to the Better Business Bureau or you go to our Google review page, we've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of positive reviews. And I wouldn't say it's not just the rating that you get. I think we're at 4.8 or 4.9 stars, but people will go on and on about your company and your business. And the good news is they don't even talk about me anymore. They talk about our team and they call them out by name. And that's really encouraging to our company. So I would suggest anyone that wants to build a strong, credible brand is to really, and whether that's Google or whether that's the Better Business Bureau or Yelp or whatever channel they think is the best in their market. But we really are very intentional about that. And I would say our team really rallies around that because we win deals specifically because we are a credible source. When I'm on TV or when I'm on the radio show or a live call-in or something, people will typically reference them deciding to do business with us versus a competitor because we are credible based on what, not just a rating, because they will read these reviews, and I would call them testimonials. So, so we're targeting being the number one. I do think we're the best, but I want to do the most. But I will not just do the most and not be the best, if that makes sense. We want to continue to be really, really quality and provide and not grow too fast, all to sacrifice the team or to sacrifice a great reputation and name, because at the end of the day, that's all we have is our reputation and our character. So unfortunately, they don't necessarily get to meet me. They get to read a review. So a lot of that comes down to how we, position ourselves online. But we are targeting the number one buyer. And I would say the last thing on that is it is difficult to do real estate business in the Chicagoland market. We buy in about 70 or 80 different towns, and they all have specific requirements. And it prohibits, or not prohibits, but it is difficult to scale that without knowing. And it's taken us years to figure that out, that every town and village treats you differently. Even though we say it's Chicago, we're everywhere. So we figured that out. We've got a great team. We figured out the marketing. We're not great at everything. We're good at lots of things. And we're targeting being a great company that can be the number one home buyer in the Chicago metro.
That's awesome. Number two home buyer in the Chicagoland market is an amazing accomplishment. Chicago is a massive market.
Yeah.
And so, but number one is, sounds like it's in your sights. And if I know you won't stop till you get there. But I do love that you tied in that you're not going to get there by doing things that are, unhealthy for the business, right? It's controlled, sustainable growth. And I think, that's something that we share at Renovo. I mean, in many ways, we won't get into our story on this episode here, but I think it's a really important piece to again, know where you want to be, but be willing to take whatever time is necessary to get there the right way, versus rushing, cutting corners, and ultimately creating a weak foundation that underpins that. And, that is destined to fall down at some point when things don't go your way. I also
Well,
really
and that would be
go ahead.
would not be playing the long game for us, right? And so
Right.
it's not because we have it all figured out. I don't have a perfect roadmap for the future. We do have a plan, we do have a vision, but we are filling in that and learning along the way what we need. So it's very important to us. To your point, it's very important to us to grow strategically and grow at a fast pace, but at a strategic speed where the team is still excited. That we're that comes down to the people that we're hiring. I mean, we really can't hire folks that are okay being at our level. We need to hire those people that are already thinking or have already been to the next level, because we're going to add on. We're building from where we're at. So everyone has to have this growth mindset, which is why it's a core value of ours. Growth, not only in business, of course, that's the easy one, but growing personally. So they all want to be something better husband, wife, father, dad, sister, brother, whatever they are. So they want to grow personally too. And I think that we can do both together. Again, to not to play off those words again, but thinking about the long term, how we're building a successful team and culture. I won't risk the reputation and the all for us saying that we're number one while we're falling apart and crumbling. That's not what we desire.
No, I think that's great. And I really appreciate too you bringing up the local aspect and the challenges that you guys face there locally in the Chicagoland area. We believe that real estate is a hyper local business, and the most successful investors really dive deep in the markets where they operate in order to gain an edge, right? And not even, sometimes it's not gaining an edge as much as it is knowing what deals not to do, right? And things like that. And those are the things you learn over time. But I know the Chicagoland market is incredibly challenging. Many folks will not touch a deal in Chicago because it's hard.
It is.
But by sticking in there and really becoming a true expert and going deep in that market, there's opportunity, right? And I think that's something that, we want this show to be about as well, as, not only your story, but also, the local story there in the market where you focus, which is in Chicagoland. We do this, and we do, that deep local approach in a lot of different cities, but it's no different city to city. It's about going as deep as possible. And you guys have found a way to really scale an incredible business by staying local. You didn't spread out into 20 different markets to grow like that, going deeper. And I think that's a really great lesson too, is, you think that growth, some people I think mistake growth for being, how do I go as wide as possible and expand the footprint as much as I can? That is one way, potentially, depending on what you're doing. But we certainly have found the most success when we really focus and go deep. And it sounds like that's the case for you too.
It sure is. Yeah. We there's, like you said, Chicago's the third or fourth largest city in the country. So it supports a huge economy, whether you're in alignment with politics or not. It's one of those places that it's an economic engine, right? It's a lot of commerce and business. So people tend to move here because it's close to the city, and there's a lot of things happening. So it really is a great suburb area. Yeah, it's a big nut to crack. But we decided that we're going to stay here and figure it out here and go deeper here and be the brand here. Before ever, talking about the next second or tertiary market, right? So we're just going to do it here. But last thing I would like to say about that is you mentioned understanding the market. We do pay very close attention to the information here locally, the hyper local information you said. It's like we track all the data, we look at all the numbers, we know our own numbers. We keep all that in house. We've got people on staff that own and manage all of that data and look at all that information. And so we're looking on that information weekly, because of the business we're in. We're buying and selling so quickly. We're paying attention to not next year's numbers necessarily, because I don't have any control over that. We're looking at like next month's numbers. And we're in the Midwest, so it's still a seasonal business. It's hot, it's cold, not just temperature wise, but the market tends to soften in the late fall and during the winter months. And it's really hot typically from end of March through middle of August. So we pay attention to all that, and we have the information from our end, plus the information you can gather online, and then try to make sense of all of it. But it's data driven decisions for sure. It's not a guessing game anymore for us.
I love that. I love that. Well, listen, I think that's a probably pretty good place to cut it off here. And I really appreciate your time today. Very, very grateful to have you on. And
yeah, it's awesome. It's been awesome.
Yeah, man. Well, you have a great story, and you're so passionate about it. It's awesome to talk to somebody that has really gone about it. And what I would say, and then there's many ways to do all of this, right? But I think you guys have done it the right way, and with a lot of heart and depth to your business, which I think really, helps you guys create that foundation that you can really build from and do some special things. So excited to continue to follow along your journey and to continue our friendship through all the things that we're working on together. And just really appreciate you taking the time to come on and share this with us.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Thanks for reaching out to me and asking to do this. It's great to gather all these things and tell the story. It makes me think about it while I'm saying it. So I just appreciate you allowing me to share it. And hopefully it's an encouragement to others, and you pick out a few things that make sense to you and things that you can apply. And it's realistic and it's relatable, like we started off saying. So that would be my hope for this, and I think it will be.
Oh, I think you nailed it, and really appreciate everything. So thanks so much, and with that, we'll wrap it up.
Cool. Thanks, James.
Thanks, Jeff.